Breakup songs are some of the most streamed songs in the world. But what is it about heartbreak that resonates so much? Heartbreak feels like physical pain. You can feel your chest tightening and aching. You can cry and cry without any clear reason why. And even if logically you know you're better off without them, you still find yourself thinking about them all the time. So why does heartbreak hurt so much? Why do we crave our exes? And how do we actually move on? Today, we'll break down the psychology of heartbreak. Why does it hurt so much? Why do we crave our exes? And how to actually move on. First, let's start by answering the question, why does heartbreak hurt so much? If you've ever experienced heartbreak, then you know that the emotional pain can be just as intense as physical pain. It might feel like your heart is breaking, and you may experience symptoms like crying, difficulty breathing, or even nausea. This might make you wonder, is heartbreak really that bad for you? Well, the answer is yes. Studies have found that heartbreak can be just as painful as physical injury. In one study, researchers used fMRI brain scans to measure the pain people felt when they were rejected by their partner. The results showed that the same areas of the brain lit up when people were rejected as when they were physically hurt. This explains why people often say that heartbreak feels like physical pain. But why does it feel so bad? Well, according to experts, it's because our brains are programmed to protect us from losing what we love. When we form a close bond with someone, our brains release chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin that make us feel good. These chemicals activate the brain's reward system and make us want to repeat the behavior that caused the release. In other words, our brains get wired to crave the things that make us feel good. But when we lose something that activates our brain's reward system, like a breakup, we go through withdrawal and experience intense cravings and pain until we replace the behavior with something else. Second, let's move on to the next question. Why can't we stop thinking about our exes? When you go through a breakup, it's normal to think about your ex a lot. After all, you just went through a major loss. But sometimes these thoughts can become obsessive and make it hard to move on. So why can't we stop thinking about our exes? As we mentioned earlier, when you form a close bond with someone, your brain releases chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin that activate the brain's reward system. But when you lose that person, your brain goes through withdrawal and experiences cravings until you replace the behavior with something else. This is the same process that happens when you're addicted to drugs or alcohol. That's why people who are going through a breakup often feel like they're going through withdrawal. They may feel anxious, depressed, irritable, and have trouble sleeping. They may also find themselves constantly thinking about their ex and the relationship. But it's not just the brain that's affected when you go through a breakup. Breakups can also affect your body. You may experience symptoms like a loss of appetite, weight loss, fatigue, and even physical pain. Again, this is because when you go through a breakup, your brain goes through withdrawal and releases chemicals that affect your body. Third, let's move on. When you go through a breakup, it's normal to feel sad and miss your ex. After all, you just went through a major loss. But sometimes it can be hard to move on and get over the pain of the breakup. There are a few reasons for this. First, when you were in a relationship, you probably formed a lot of habits and routines around the other person. Maybe you went to the movies every Friday night or had dinner at the same restaurant every Sunday. These habits and routines likely became automatic, and you didn't even think about them. But when your partner breaks up with you, you're suddenly left with a lot of free time and no one to spend it with. It can be hard to break old habits and start new ones. Second, you may be emotionally dependent on your partner, even if you don't realize it. When you're in a long-term relationship, you probably rely on your partner for emotional support. Maybe you talk to them about your day when you get home from work, or vent to them about your problems at school. If you're not careful, you can become overly reliant on your partner for emotional support. When they break up with you, it can be hard to adjust. Finally, it can be hard to move on from a breakup because it's hard to accept the new reality. When you're in a relationship, you probably have a certain vision of the future in your head. Maybe you see yourself getting married and having children. When your partner breaks up with you, you have to change that vision and accept that it won't be with them. This can be tough, especially if the breakup was sudden or out of the blue. Fourth, let's move on to the final question. How can we actually heal faster? Now that you understand why heartbreak hurts so much, you can take steps to heal faster. Here are a few tips from experts. First, give yourself time to grieve. It's important to allow yourself time to heal after a breakup. Don't try to force yourself to move on before you're ready. Give yourself the time you need to grieve the loss of the relationship. Reach out for support. Lean on your friends and family during this difficult time. Talk to them about how you're feeling and let them help you through the healing process. No contact rule. The no contact rule is a helpful tool to heal faster from a breakup. By temporarily cutting off all communication with your ex, you give yourself space to focus on healing and moving on. You can use this time to focus on self-care and rebuilding your life without your ex. Number 4. Replace old habits with new routines. When you're going through a breakup, it's important to keep busy and focus on other aspects of your life. Try to replace the habits and routines you had with your ex with new ones. This could include taking up a new hobby, joining a sports team, or spending more time with friends and family. Regulate your emotions. When you're going through a breakup, it's important to find healthy ways to express your emotions. This could involve journaling, practicing mindfulness, or talking to a therapist. It's important to find healthy outlets for your emotions so you don't keep them bottled up inside. Your brain adapts. It's important to remember that the pain of a breakup doesn't last forever. Your brain is constantly changing and adapting, and eventually the pain will subside. The fact that you're watching this video and learning about the psychology of heartbreak shows that you're already on the path to healing. You're taking steps to understand the situation, and that's a positive sign. Remember, heartbreak can be a difficult and painful experience, but it's important to take care of yourself during this time. Allow yourself to grieve, reach out for support, no contact rule, replace old habits with new routines, and regulate your emotions. With time and effort, you will heal and move on. If you want more psychology explained simply, subscribe and check my shorts for daily quick facts.